today my presentation is going to be about getting context about the data before jumping into visualization and analysis. And I'm using these two books as a reference, Storytelling with Data and Makeover Monday. I highly recommend these two books because they give you excellent theoretical knowledge about data visualization. So that being said, I am starting this presentation. So before you deep dive into your visualization, making fancy charts, etc., you want to ask yourself, are you doing an explanatory analysis or an exploratory analysis? And there's a big difference between these two. An exploratory analysis is where you're basically analyzing the entire data set and you're doing more of a descriptive analysis. You're trying to draw trends of each and every data point. And it's like looking for oysters. When you have 100 oysters, only 2 of them may have pearls. So when you do an exploratory analysis, you're looking at all the 100 oysters, but when you do an explanatory analysis, you're looking for the right information to present to the key stakeholders. And this is a very good example given in the book Storytelling with Data. So when you go for explanatory analysis, people understand the visualization more and they can make decisions of it. The next important thing is who's your audience and what are they looking for? So what the second point really means is, what is your relationship with this audience? Are you presenting this information to them for the first time? Do you have an established relationship with them? Also, how familiar are they with data visualization? Are they used to seeing any advanced charts, or are they simply limited to line charts or bar charts? So based on that, you may have to design your dashboard accordingly. And what are they looking for? What is the main problem statement that they're trying to solve? So when you make a visualization that does not clearly address their problem statement, something that doesn't drive them to action, the result might be, oh, that's a nice looking dashboard and that's about it. They will park it somewhere and not look at it again. Defining goals and requirements is pretty important, especially defining requirements, because a lot of times many people don't understand what they are even looking for. So you have to elicit requirements from them, like a typical business analysis. So when I work with Bill on several data for good projects, he definitely makes it a point to gather the requirements from the key stakeholders, just to make sure that we don't get into scope creeps, we don't show information that is not necessary. And it definitely reduces the gap between what the stakeholders want and what you want to present, because many times what you want to present is definitely not what the stakeholders want to see. And also the goal, like what is the end result of this visualization? Are they planning to get more budget from some from a budget committee? Are they planning to market a particular product, increase sales, increase revenue? What is the overarching theme of this visualization?
I'll expand on that a little bit on the defined goals and requirements. I totally agree with you. And I notice when I run projects, people in the room are very creative people. And the biggest problem we have is sticking to just answering the requirements, because people right away want to expand that, because they start to go into this creative mode of, hey, what else we could do? And that's the hardest problem I have, is trying to keep the participants or the analysts that are trying to analyze the data corralled and keeping their enthusiasm just so they can answer the requirements. And then after that, I think it's good that we can explore other things, but let's get the visualizations done. So we got the requirements done, and then move on if we have more time. But anyways.
Absolutely. And also understand and quality check the data available. Sometimes the data is simply not clean. If you take this data that's not clean and you make a visualization out of it, some subject matter experts in the audience will almost immediately shoot it down saying that there's no way this trend should be like this based on my experience. So before making a visualization, you also want to understand where's the data coming from, how often is it updated, and is the formatting of the data good? Are there a lot of missing values? What do you do with the missing values? So as we all know, like data cleaning takes up a huge chunk of data visualization, and it often what happens in and the data for good volunteering projects that a lot of people in this audience work on. So dashboard developers in general should avoid the following: presenting a chart that will take the viewers a long time to fully understand. You put so many things on your dashboard. You put about 8 to 10 charts on your dashboard. You may think that it's good. I'm making all the charts interactive, but sometimes people are just trying to make sense of it. Like, what is this dashboard telling me? What is the call for action? And sometimes you may present a chart to them that they have never even seen before. So when you present that kind of a chart, that's when it comes to knowing your audience. How familiar are they with data visualization? And then, yeah, the second point sort of rolls in with the first one, where you get into exploratory analysis rather than explanatory, where you present such a big information overload to the audience that there's no way they can drive any insights. And they all can say, yeah, it's a good visualization. And because most people are just polite, they don't want to hurt your feelings. They won't criticize your visualization at that point. They will simply not use it. Um, Not understanding the problem statement clearly and presenting the wrong information, this ties into the requirements. You need to definitely make sure your requirements are documented, and you have you really, like, there's a project manager who makes sure that there's no scope creep happening in the project, so that what you present to the audience is exactly what they need to see to make a decision. Yeah, and the last one is it can be honestly the worst one is like not understanding the data well and presenting incorrect information. So in the previous data for good project, we had to analyze some survey results, and Jen definitely gave some very good insights on how survey results are supposed to be. So when you present survey result like a result in the wrong way, it may like you use a wrong aggregation technique, or you make some wrong assumptions about a field. There's a possibility that it will lead to a wrong insight, which will lead to a bad decision. So here's a very simple chart that shows the effectiveness, the correlation between the information that you present on a dashboard and the effectiveness. So if you look on the left-hand side, when you have less information, and you're very effective with what the dashboard is doing, like people are getting insights, there's a call to action. It comes under the category of explanatory analysis, but as you start throwing in more information on your chart, the effectiveness will gradually start reducing, and you start entering the exploratory analysis space, where people, it's just more for the analyst to understand what the data is, but it's not for a decision maker to drive to get insights. And who's your audience and what are they looking for? Um, so there are a couple of there's usually a sponsor or requester for this visualization. Uh, Now the sponsor might be the head of a not-for-profit organization, or the head of a budget committee who is authorizing, like who's basically signing the project charter for this visualization, who wants to basically uh, make a decision and use visualization to act like a catalyst to fast track that decision, or communicate that, to make sure that the people understand why is this decision made. Um, who will be the people seeing and understanding this visualization? So there's a sponsor who's requesting the analyst to make a visualization, but then there's a possibility that the people who are actually seeing this visualization might be someone else. So for example, your boss may be like, your department manager may request this visualization, but the audience might be the VPs of the company. So it's pretty important to know like who's the requester of this visualization and who are the people actually seeing this visualization and consuming this information. Uh, yeah, then what is this, like there may be a difference between what the sponsor is hoping to achieve from this visualization, what success looks like to him or her. So there may be a manager who's requesting that, hey, I need to make some hiring decisions. Can you make me a visualization that I can present to the HR to convince him or her to make additional hires? So that's the problem statement that the sponsor is having. But
Oh,
then,
I think we had another good example of that in the coalition project, Saltwater Pond Coalition. I think we were creating the visualizations in advance. Before we really asked the question, we were assuming the audience was like maybe you people, chemists at URI, maybe internal. And then she said it was her clients. And we were kind of shocked by that answer. And it turned out to be the reports that we were generating were going to be looked at by what she called their clients, but they were people who lived along the salt pond, right? And what they were worried about, they wanted to see the pollution information about the salt ponds because they had a house on there, multi-million-dollar houses. And we realized she was feeding this data to them. So it kind of changed our mind on how we were going to present the data because they were 1.2 million, $1.4 million homes. And if that pond didn't look good, as far as the quality of the water, their property values could diminish drastically. You could get a $4 million, $1.4 million house and end up worth $800,000 because the salt pond outside the house wasn't really good quality water. So yeah, that's so important. I think that one we discovered about maybe halfway through, because I think we're all under the same assumption that the clients were internal or URI people that was analyzing the data. But that's a good one. I think you got to clearly understand that really early. I think that's something we learned from that project for sure.
yeah, definitely. There's a big difference between the sponsor, someone who's requesting you to make this visualization, and who are the people actually consuming the information on your dashboard. Um, then the next point is, does the audience have any bias about the data? So especially when you're dealing, I think, with subject matter experts, due to the vast amount of experience, they sort of know that certain values cannot exceed this value or cannot go below a certain value. Like there are certain general rules of thumb about a data. Like, so you want to make sure that you want to consult with these subject matter experts before presenting it, because the moment they see something that doesn't add up based on their experience, the dashboard will get, it'll get shot down, when you're presenting it. So you really want to understand, like, for example, so Bill, when we were working on the Salt Pond Coalition project, sure, like we had a whole variety of pollutant factors, but there are certain values in the pollutant factors that can't exceed a particular value. So if it does, that means either the data is incorrect or we made a mistake in some of the calculation fields. So that's one important point. And yeah, then the last point is the primary problem statement. Like sometimes if you're lucky, the requirements are defined for you. Uh, the person who's requesting this visualization knows exactly what he or she wants. But sometimes it's just open-ended. It's just a very vague problem statement. So I think a good example will be so Bill, the SCIJ project. So we had to make a visualization for the immigration. Like there was a volunteering group in a school where they were helping immigrants process paperwork, to get their visas. But the main sponsor did not, like, he the problem statement was very big picture. It was very big. It was like, we want to understand the impact of this new program, but we had to elicit requirements from the sponsor. So this is where the requirements need to be defined, because you will not get a list of like 5 bullet points. Like this is exactly, these are the graphs that I want to see on this visualization, etc. So this is where, you need a good project manager or a business analyst who can elicit requirements from the sponsor.
Yeah, that was student clinic for
Yeah,
immigration.
yeah, student clinic immigration justice. Yeah. Uh, so when it comes to the problem statement, I think there may be two categories. The first one is the problem statement is vague. The sponsor is still not clear what he or she wants. So here you have to walk through the requirement. You have to guide the sponsor to define the requirement, elicit the requirements first, and then prepare a very formal business requirements document that the sponsor signs off on. So in the student clinic immigration justice, we had to define the goal first. What I like when you see an impact analysis, are you trying to look for something positive or negative? Like, so the overarching goal for that particular project was, hey, this program, we want to prove that this program is a success. So we want to have this goal of showing this visualization that shows that this program had a positive impact on the students in general. But then again, but once you define that high level goal, then you can sort of drill down into the requirements that, okay, if you want to have a very positive impact, what data fields you want us to show, and after that, you prepare a business requirements document. So Bill does that very well all the time and all the data for good projects. And this document should be, signed off by the sponsor, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And also maybe preparing a dashboard design requirements document, because sometimes you may think that, okay, if I make a dashboard very interactive, it's awesome, but that everything falls apart if the sponsor only needs a PowerPoint presentation. So that's something which you want to consider sometimes, that how will this dashboard be presented to the stakeholders? Is it going to be a static PowerPoint presentation, or is it going to be a dynamic interactive dashboard? Because if it's a static, then your options are very limited.
Yeah, I think in our cases, what we do with the projects, and I think this works, we kind of use agile. In other words, we find out what the customer wants. We do some visualizations, we show it to them the next week, get feedback, and then we change it. Do so kind of 3 or 4 iterations before we get to the final product. So I think you're absolutely right. Let the customer see your work before you finalize your work.
Yep, absolutely. But damn, yeah, the second case is sometimes a problem statement is clearly defined. Your manager comes to you with a list of requirements, and at that point, you probably don't ask a lot of questions because the decision has already been made. But it's still good to prepare a business requirements document, just get something in writing and just jump into the dashboard design. Like, you don't have to define the goals or elicit requirements, because usually there's a sense of urgency to get the dashboard complete. But the overarching theme is you definitely need to define requirements in writing before jumping into analysis. So that being said, you want the next step is know, understand, and quality check the data available. When you get a data set, you want to understand what each column means, like how when we were working on the saltwater pond coalition, we wanted to understand, like, there were pollutant factors. Okay, then there were multiple pollutant factors, like the BOD, the pH, the chlorine. So we want to understand, like, what like how bad is too bad, for each pollutant factor. So that's why you want to do your research on each column, and even the units, for example, like, do all the pollutant factors have the same units? Do we have to normalize the data? uh, then the data set, like, does it contain all the information you need to solve the problem, or do you have to go to another source to get that additional information and merge it with your existing data set to get a complete picture? Now, sometimes you have access to that excessive information, sometimes you don't. Then in that case, you may have to go to the sponsor and say, I understand you want this problem solved, but in order for me to solve it, I need these 4 or 5 additional columns. Where's the best place to get them? Or can you provide that to me, or can you point me to someone who can provide it? And then do a sense check on your data, like just an overall descriptive analysis. You want to see if there are a lot of missing values. If you do find a 40% of your data points have missing values, what do you do with them? Do you blatantly ignore them? Do you do you have some assumptions to fill those missing values with averages, etc.? You want to deal with outliers very well, because especially, outliers can skew the average result quite often. So do you want to ignore the outliers, include them in your analysis, show them with the box plot, etc.? Data cleanliness, yeah, the formatting of your data needs to be pretty important. For example, spelling mistakes can happen, especially when you're dealing with text data. In that case, you may want to, use tools like Tableau Prep, which is a good tool to make sure that you don't have duplicate information. And yeah, definitely the last one being data accuracy. Sometimes especially if the data is entered by users, there's a possibility that they may enter the wrong information in the wrong column, or enter information at, basic data entry mistakes. It's something to consider, which is why you want to consult with a subject matter expert if you see, like before you deep dive into the analysis, to see like, hey, is this data clean? But overall, this is all that I wanted to present for today. Just some general guidelines on what to do before jumping into the deep analysis work and making a fancy dashboard. Because I look at this like the foundation to a good dashboard. Because if you don't get good context about your data, you may be set on the wrong path, and your dashboard will probably not be used as much, which can be disappointing sometimes.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I'm not hearing any. See if in the chat. No, I don't see any. Okay. All right, Pranav, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. So the next phase of this is, we'll do a couple of tips and tricks, and some of you may already know some of these, but I've done enough of them so that they're very short. So I'm hoping that at least you get one and go, I didn't know that word. I didn't know that you could do that. So that's what I'm after. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. This thing, I like to get it out of the way somehow. Okay, so the first tip is that I'm surprised that some people don't know this, but it's a nice little tip to have. So up in here, you got a blank screen, and you're about to start to work on your worksheets. And so the first thing you can really do is right up in here at the top, it says format. If you click on format, click on worksheet, and this little dialog box opens up on the left-hand side. The nice thing about this dialog box is I can set the format for every single one of my sheets. So in here, it says sheets, and this one is for everything on your sheet will be a 9 font. So I'm going to leave it at that. But let's see, worksheet titles. I don't want them to be 12. I'm going to make this dramatic so you can see the difference. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say 20. Notice it changed up here already. I'm going to say it's going to be blue. And I'm going to make it bold. And you can also do that with dashboard titles. So you can set all your fonts right now, instead of every single sheet opening it and adjusting them. Down here, it says lines, here, more, you can click on more, and there's other things in here you can look at. But it's more important that you know where it is than exactly what all these things do. You can play with these, they're pretty obvious, I think. But here's what I want to show you now. So I've done it in this tip 1, right? And if I open up a new sheet, it's already, notice the bold is already there. So this sheet is already set up based on what I did earlier. And that's that one. So the next example is, I see this one. Headers. Okay. Okay. So on this one, all I did is create this little sheet, this bar graph, region by sales, and we've all seen this a million times. Let me get rid of that. The other thing I like to get rid of is these little titles. It says region, so everybody knows these are regions, so you just hide those and get those out of the way. But the more important place, see how you have central, east, west, and there's other times that you'll have labels at the bottoms that you really like to get them to the top. And I know people manipulate them in some way, but here's an easy way to do this. You just come up here under analysis up here. You come into table layout and it says advanced, click it. And in here, there's this little check mark. It says show most inner level bottom of the view as a vertical axis. Watch when I unclick that and say apply. Now my labels are all at the top. It's a nice little feature that you might use from time to time. Any questions on that, how to do that? Okay. Okay, tip 3, I'm going to go in here and this is hidden and some people don't know about this, but I just set up this spreadsheet so you can see the central, eastern, southern, western region. What if we wanted totals in there? I know you can go up to analysis and do some things up there, but there's a much quicker way. You come in here where it says this analysis tab on the left, you click it. Many people don't know there's a totals box here. Left click, I drag it in and I can do, just let it go over subtotals. It subtotals everything. If I come back over here again, drag it over, it'll do the row column totals. So a nice little feature that's in there. It's really quick, easy, and it gets you where you want to go. Okay.
Can I add a tip to that?
Sure.
Go back twice so you don't have those totals anymore.
Sure, go ahead.
Go back to analytics, totals, and then drop it on the table.
Okay.
That's going to give you all of them.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you. That's Tina?
That was Jen.
Oh, Jen. Oh, thanks, Jen. All right, thank you so much. That's really good. This one, color match. So here's an interesting one. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to change this to this color to black for a second, just to make a point. Okay, so we want to fill in colors. That's always try to color match. You ever done that before? So because this is, I'm using obviously the sample Superstore data here. I thought I'd do Superstore. So this is, I'm not sure. I want to put a background in here, but I want it to match my Superstore data, which is out here. Oops. My office supply data. So I want the same background and color as this office supply data, right? So this is just the URL I threw in. Okay, so I come back to my view. I come up, I'm just going to I'm going to right click and say edit title, oops, format title. Okay, and I want to shade the background the same color as this office supply background. So I come in here and I go into shading, right? Come down here, it says more colors, click on it and see where it says pick screen color. I'm left clicking and I'm dragging, left clicking, I clicked it. Now I'm dragging this over, left click, dragging it over to here. Whoops, color. There we go. And I'm just hovering over the blue. And there it is. Blue came in. I say, okay. And it matches the same color. And you can do this in many things in Tableau. And I'm going to go in here and I'm also going to change that to white. The labels to white. And there we go. Then we can open it up. And we have the matching background color to the website. And you can do that even if you have colors within Tableau, you can do the same thing, same method. So does anybody have any questions on how to do that? You good? Okay. And matching color. Oh, this is another one you run into. You ever come into this and you create a table or a cross tab, whatever you want to call it, and you come up with this ABC thing and you just can't get rid of that thing, right? You can always come in here. And then you can do this, but the ABC is always there, really. So I just want to clear the ABC out. I don't want that in there. So what you can do here, come over here to automatic, hit the down arrow. See this polygon? Click it. Gets rid of the ABC. Now there's another way to do that too. Ad-libbing here. So let me see if I can remember the other way. You can also create a calculation. So I'm going to come up here to calculation, and you could say blank ABC. And all you do is come in here and you quote, oops. Come in here and you hit the quote, space bar, quote. So that to me, it's a blank now. And you say apply, and I should have said okay. Okay, and I think right here, if I drag that into text, I think it disappears. There you go. And that gets rid of that ABC thing again. So if you're annoyed by that, which I am at times, that's one way to get rid of it. And let's see what time we got here. Yeah, we got time. So in this map layers, in Tableau, I think 2021.2, I think map layers came in, but I think some people still don't realize that even exists. I've seen people do the map layers, the old multiple iterations way to do it. This is really simple now. So I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to come in. I'm going to grab state and get it into the view. Just taking a second to get in there. I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to come in and make it a filled map. Okay, and I'm going to take state and I'm going to put it into label. I'm going to make those smaller. I'm just coming in here, making it smaller. I'm going to make that 7. Okay, nice and small. Yeah, I'm going to put color in there too. So I'm going to take the states and put it into color. Okay, so we have this little state thing. Now I want to put the cities in too. So what if I come in here, left click, drag, notice this map layer opens up now? Just drop it on the top. This is a great, really great if you're doing a lot with maps. And it'll take a second. And there's all the states. I'm just going to hide that card. We don't need it. So, and there's all the states in there. Notice we've got some errors here. So I got to go back up and edit locations. And I'm just going to say, I think I'm going to put this by from the fields that are in there. Get this correct. Okay. So that goes away. And then I can come in here and take this, click on city, and I'm going to make them all black. And I'm going to put a border around it, maybe orange. I don't know what it is. And I'm going to change the size to smaller. So now I've got the cities, and I think we can even do a region. Let's do a region and see what happens. I'm going to left click region, drop it up in here, drop it in. So region, I want to make that, a filled map too. So the region's in there now. But what this does for you, watch, you can leave this on your dashboard. You can just drag this whole thing over. And in your dashboard, you can actually put an annotation in here. If I click on this, it opens this up so that now the user actually can come in here and say, I just want to see the city and state and get rid of region. I just want to see the cities, or I just want to see the regions. Should probably put the region names in there. So kind of cool. So those are the map layers in there. And if I stick it into a dashboard, obviously, this will show up. I usually get rid of these. I don't let users do that very often. But anyways, I put an annotation and tell the user they can do this. Anyways, that's map layers. Everybody knows, can play around with that. Oh, comment. Oh, this is just a tip. You can add a comment to any field. So if I go in and I do a calculation of some kind, let's see. Cost of goods sold, right? So it'll be the sum of sales. Divided by sum of profit. Okay, so that's a good calculation, and I say apply it, and we're okay with it. Now I've got this thing down here, right? I got, oh, by the way, the other way to do this, to try to always make this get to the top when, I want to edit this. I'm just clicking on this. I'm going to edit it and edit. And I'm going to put a little, what do you call that when you just, it's underline, I guess it is. Because that makes it always go to the top. So that's the only reason I do that and say, okay. Okay, so now we've got this here and we've got the calculation, but the nice thing about this, we can label it. We put a comment here to remember what it is. So I hit the down arrow and I think it is default properties, right? See up here, right here, it says comment. Click on it, little box opens. And I'm going to say, as a comment, just to remind me what that calculation is, say, okay. Now, when I hover over it, notice below it says sales minus profit. So you can do that for anything, dimensions or measures, whatever you want to do. And those comments will pop in. It's kind of nice, especially if you do a lot of changing of things. Okay. And I think my last one's coming up here. Oh yeah, this is just this is a pretty good one because I actually had to redo some visualization that somebody had already done. Now you got the scribe worksheet, okay? It's in case somebody's handing this off to you. Somebody sent this over to you and now you have this visualization and you maybe got to change it or duplicate it. I don't know what you got to do with it, but you need to really understand what it is. So you could actually, look at this thing and just start to figure it out. I'm just looking at it quickly. Do I have any calculations involved? I don't really know what this is, but there's a feature in Tableau under worksheet. It says all the way down here at the bottom, right here, describe worksheet. If you click on that, it actually gives you a description, even talks about any calculator right here, look, measures. It's showing the calculation that I put in there. So it gives you a pretty good description. And if you look at this carefully, I just wanted you to let it know it's there. And look, it's telling you how I saved it. I saved it as a hyper. Okay. So I saved the database as hyper. What else did I do in here? Order Superstore 2017. It's an extract. See it in here, it's describing it. So there's lots of good information in here. So you can kind of go through. It's talking about the members, January, July, June, so it's the months. So if you look in here, it's the trend of cost of goods sold by month, broken down by order year. So it's a nice little, I think, a feature where if you're doing work, taking over work from somebody else, it's nice to be able to have that. And that's all I've got. Anybody got any questions? Want to see something over again?
I have a question, Bill. It's
Yeah.
Jen. Back on your tip 7 for comments,
Yeah.
if you add that calculation now to your viz. Does that comment show up anywhere on the viz?
I don't think so. I'm gonna drop it in and see. I don't think it showed, the comment doesn't show up anywhere that I've noticed.
Okay.
So, but the comment is still up here in the row. See, if you hover over it.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
So it's still in there. So the comment's there. So it's kind of nice because if you took a measure or something and did something special with it, you could drop it in there and hover over it. Gives you a little bit of explanation. So
I was just curious if it was in the viz so that it might help the end user.
oh yeah, not that I know of that.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, I know the meeting was relatively short, but we purposely kind of handled it that way because we wanted to stay in touch with the user community because we haven't met in a while. And I think what the next thing we're going to do is we're trying to arrange an on-site meeting for the first time in like a year. It'll be the first quarter of next year. We're targeting February, and we hope to be at the Providence Public Library in the gorgeous ship room. There'll be a buffet dinner, and we have lots of good times. I've talked to Tableau. We're trying to get a Tableau speaker to come in to talk about some of the most, I guess, noticeable or updates that they've done with the product over the last year and kind of give us a picture of what's coming on down the road. So we're hoping to have that person on site, and that's my goal. But it may end up being, depending on the availability of the person, it may end up being over Zoom. So we're not sure yet. So I think that's all we have for tonight. Anybody have any other comments, questions? Okay, short meeting, but we just wanted to keep in touch and share a couple of hopefully helpful, some helpful information. Okay, that's it. I hope to see you at in the first quarter next year at our next meeting. Take care. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
tips.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Bye.